Clemson.
No.
I've got UNC at 9. So North Carolina's at 9 for me. And I did want to, because I looked up Drake May's stats. This dude's
Okay.
this dude is such a stud. He's completed 70.1% of his passes this season. That's 361 passes attempted too. So it's a lot.
Yeah, that's not a small sample size.
I think that might lead the nation in pass attempts. Or
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, it doesn't. It's Rogers from Mississippi State. Mike Leach. Mike Leach team leads the nation in passing attempts. But Drake May's up there. 3,412 yards, 34 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Damn.
584 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns there as well. So he's got 39 touchdowns. He still has at least 3 games to go.
Damn. I mean, if it weren't for somebody named Mitch Trubisky, I'd say, dang, somebody get this boy. But we've seen this before at North Carolina.
I think it's a little different.
It's definitely different.
Plus, he, I believe, is a redshirt freshman.
Damn.
Like, he's putting up some freaking stats.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, in that game alone, like you read off his season stats, but he was 31 of 49 for 448 yards and 3 touchdowns with a QBR of 83.
Yeah.
Like, that's a hell of a game right there.
Yeah. I think it was.
It just says freshman under class on ESPN. I don't know.
I think it was. He may be a true freshman. I don't know. But I think it was Dane Brugler who said that if he was draft eligible this year, he'd be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft.
Dang, that's some high praise.
I'm pretty sure that was Dane Brugler that said that.
Yeah, but like I said, we've seen this before out of North Carolina. It was a short season.
And the difference,
it was weird.
The difference is that this North Carolina team wins.
True. That is definitely true. That was a good win for them against Wake Forest.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a fun game too. It was really close. Not as high scoring as I thought it was going to be. I mean, you can say that it was a 34-36 game,
yeah,
but it
still pretty high scoring.
Like the over-under was like 79.
Fair.
And the reason for that is last year these two teams combined for like 120 points. And the year before it was like 114.
Dang, so Drake May also had 19 carries for 71 yards and a rushing touchdown.
Yeah,
Dang,
dude is talented,
okay.
man.
Okay, I can see it.
And like this is not like just like a come out of nowhere 3-star recruit. Like he was a 5-star recruit. He was the 22nd overall recruit in his class.
He's looking like it.
He's an absolute stud.
Drake may just get to the NFL.
He might.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I couldn't tell if that was a sneeze or not.
It was a cough. It was a cough. The screen didn't start moving around and shaking and stuff, so it wasn't a sneeze. Like I said, I'm a little under the weather still. I'm feeling better, but I still have the cough, and yeah. So number 8 is I've got Utah, which stays at number 8. They'll probably start moving behind some teams pretty soon. They did look okay.
42-7
this week. Yeah.
That's not bad.
They're playing Arizona State, right?
Stanford.
Oh, that's even worse. Stanford's pretty bad.
Yeah, true.
USC.
They actually got Utah next week, or Oregon.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game. Next week we have USC, UCLA, and Oregon, Utah, I think.
Those should be good.
That'll be a good Pac-12 week.
Yep.
We got USC at number 7. They jump up from number 9. They're 9-1. They're now the Pac-12's last chance to get a playoff team.
They got UCLA and Notre Dame left, so
yeah, those will be 2 really good resume builders. And then they'll have the Pac-12 championship against one of those 3 teams: Utah, Oregon, UCLA. they'll have one of those teams next week, or Washington next week, or not next week. I mean, in the Pac-12
title.
championship game.
Yeah.
So USC is in good shape. If they win out, they're in the playoff. Their resume will be good enough to get them into the playoff.
It's going to be tough though.
If they win out, which is
right.
By no means an easy feat to face those three teams in 3 weeks. That would not be easy.
No.
LSU have got it number 6. I had them at 7 last week. LSU task remains the same. If they want to get in the playoff, they have to win out and they have to beat Georgia.
And man,
anything less,
13-10 against Arkansas is not giving you much hope against Georgia.
So
without KJ Jefferson.
Right. No, I definitely agree. I think after beating Alabama last week, like this game was a trap game. You know, they have a whole week of everybody telling them how great they are. Everybody, patting them on the back and saying, "Hey, you're the best. You're going to go to the SEC title game. You're going to beat Alabama, or you're going to beat Georgia, the new Alabama, or you're going to go to the playoff." And like they had people tell them that all week, and then they came out and the offense laid an egg. They
a little bit.
They did not look good. Now, Arkansas's defense has gotten a little better, but this is a very wounded Arkansas team that they played.
Yeah, and then now they get to go to UAB, or no, they get to play UAB at home, but then they get to travel to College Station, and that train wreck of a football program.
Yeah.
So no, they should. I mean, it's going to be LSU Georgia in the SEC title game.
Yeah, that's guaranteed now.
So, yeah.
Did you watch much of that game? Did you get a chance to watch much of that game?
The LSU Arkansas?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Did you see like any kind of highlight packages or anything for Harold Perkins?
Oh yes. I remember even Darren was like, "Dude, that Perkins boy, he's gonna be a beast for a long time."
He's a true freshman linebacker and rusher. He's an edge rusher. He had 8 tackles, 4 sacks, another hurry, a forced fumble, and then almost had a second forced fumble where he almost ended the game with the forced fumble, but it ended up being an incomplete pass. And then he did end the game with a forced fumble.
Monster.
And those stats, 8 tackles, 4 sacks, and 1 hurry, that feels really low. It felt, watching the game, it felt like he had 37 tackles, 8 sacks, and 17
everything
hurries.
Was always him.
Yeah. Just every time you look up, it's like, oh, there's Harold Perkins doing something awesome again.
He did have a pass deflection as well.
Yeah. He was all over the place, man.
Hell yeah.
He was absolutely insane. That's
definitely exciting to see.
It's one of the best freshman performances I've ever seen on a football field.
That's insane.
Especially for a defensive player. It takes a lot for a defensive player to really jump out at you, especially when you're watching multiple games. But that dude jumped out at me. I'm watching 3 games, and when Arkansas was on offense, I'm just watching the game because I got to see where Harold Perkins is going to do next.
That's funny because, I mean, I honestly didn't even realize. I know you probably just said it, but I was trying to look up something at the same time. But I did not even realize he was a freshman. Holy shit.
Yep. True freshman.
He is going to be really good.
Yeah. Well, he was the number 1 linebacker recruit in last year's class. And I think he was the 3rd overall recruit in the class. So he's not a come out of nowhere guy. He's the guy that people, 2 years ago this guy's going to play in the NFL. He's going to play in the NFL.
Oh, I could definitely see it now for sure. He's got that Micah Parsons vibe.
Yeah, he plays a little like Micah too. So my top 5 stays the same. Tennessee at 5, TCU at 4, Ohio State at 3, Michigan at 2, and Georgia, the new Alabama, at number 1. I say that because I am more convinced than ever and it took me a couple of weeks to get there. I've kind of felt like they could be, but I wasn't ready to give it to them for a long time because of a couple
Fair.
of their clunkers.
Yeah.
There's a clear separation between Georgia and everyone else.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I've actually heard multiple other like the sports station I like to listen to, some podcasts I listen to, like a lot of people say that now, and I think you're right. They just had to prove it. And
Yeah,
that huge win against Tennessee, which dominant win against Tennessee, who is still looks like they're probably the next closest, at least right now. But
I still would probably go Michigan and Ohio State, then Tennessee if I'm like picking games. Um, like I think Georgia would beat Michigan. I think Georgia would beat everybody. I think Michigan would beat Ohio State, and we'll see in a couple of
we
weeks.
will
Now
get to see that one. Yep.
it is at Ohio State, so little monkey wrench there. I think that both of those teams would beat Tennessee. Both of those teams would probably beat Tennessee. All right, I meant TCU.
Gotcha.
I think both those teams would probably beat Tennessee on a neutral field. I think Tennessee would probably beat TCU on a neutral field.
Fair. That's fair. Let's talk about them for a second though, because they damn near could have lost that game. And I mean,
If Texas offense had a pulse,
yeah, that's the hard part. You gotta give credit where credit's due though. TCU's defense was playing well. It wasn't like you guys just didn't have you couldn't find it because they were burying it. They were playing
I'm not
well.
sure I agree. There were multiple drops, and there were multiple times where one of the fastest receivers in college, Xavier Worthy, is just like running not wide open, but has a step or two, and Quinn Ewers overthrows him by 6 feet.
Now
And
obviously
it's
you're
just
gonna
like,
have
that's a touchdown if you just throw it with a little bit more air under it and how are you overthrowing the one of the fastest players in college football by that much? It does not make sense.
that doesn't make sense. I mean, you should definitely be able to get him to the ball.
But like Quinn Ewers didn't have a complete pass until I think it might have actually been the second quarter or almost the second quarter. They didn't have a completed pass yet.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
And he was all over the place. I can't remember us more than like maybe 3 or 4 accurate passes.
Yeah,
It
I
was
mean,
bad.
you definitely were probably going to be watching that one a little bit more than I was because obviously it's your team. So I guess I didn't really see a lot of those, but I do believe you because, like I said, I've called him out a little bit on it before this season of having some errant throws that maybe you just should have either A, not thrown it, or B, how in the world were you that off? So I'm not surprised to hear that. And I guess it wasn't actually as close as I really even thought it was because it was 17-3, and then the only reason y'all made it 17-10 was a 50 or a 48
Yeah.
yard fumble return touchdown.
I
So
I made a joke during the game when that happened, when they got the defensive touchdown. I made a joke that we were watching with some of the guys that I talked to, that are also Texas fans, that like I basically sent a text that said, "Go Texas Hawkeyes,"
hey,
because they were playing like Iowa.
like just having to rely on their defense and
I've
couldn't do
watched
anything on offense.
I've watched a ton of Iowa this year. That was one
You
of the
have.
worst offensive performances I've seen this season. What Texas
Oof.
did.
Oof.
It was almost as bad as the worst of Iowa.
Yikes. Yeah,
It's
I
it's
mean,
better than Iowa because they did move the ball a couple of drives,
fair.
but for long stretches of that game, it looked like Iowa.
Ugh. The orange just morphed into yellow. Oh no. Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean TCU's defense did look improved, but that defense, like I detailed it with those same friends, that um that defense had given up 28 plus points for 7 or 8 consecutive games. And
Damn.
Texas offense got 3.
Damn. Yeah, that's bad.
So
That's
I
pretty
think
bad.
it had as much to do. Now on the other side, Texas defense looked really good, but TCU's offense looked a little bit out of sync. So I don't know how much to credit one way or the other.
That's what makes me a little bit nervous for TCU, because Max Duggan was struggling a little bit too. They couldn't really get the run game going. Did they have their big receiver? Was he healthy again? I think he was
He
playing, but
was. He
he
scored a
seemed kind of
touchdown.
limited. He did seem a little limited though.
Yeah.
But no,
I think he was on a pitch count.
probably true. I mean, it's college. You got to be smart about these guys' bodies. But he, or not he, TCU. Luckily, they got Baylor next, which, like we've already talked about, they seem like they're basically completely done. And then Iowa State. So they'll definitely have a couple games to get ready for whoever they end up having to play in the Big 12 championship. But it's all in
Which
their hands.
technically could be Texas again.
It really could.
Technically.
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 Ooh, there you go. But it's all in their hands. They went out, they're in, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think anybody wants to be that 4 seed at this point.
No.
At least as long as Georgia stays that 1.
Right. Which Georgia's going to stay 1. I don't think they're losing a game.
I don't think they'll lose to
really
LSU in the title game either. You just never know when it comes to the SEC title game. That shit is up for grabs usually.
I think that this Georgia team has kind of a chip on its shoulder of like, hey, last year's team lost the SEC title game. They still won the national championship, but let's go win both.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with you there. And I mean, it did look like Kentucky was going to be a little bit of a tougher matchup. Now it doesn't look like so much.
Yeah.
And then Georgia Tech, obviously nobody. But LSU, I mean, I do agree. They do seem like they got a chip on their shoulder and they want to prove that they're the best team in the SEC, not just national champions. So you're right. They probably will come out there and just manhandle them. But that it just always makes me nervous.
Last thing with college, I just wanted to shout out UConn and Jim Mora Jr. So UConn, they didn't play in 2020. They shut down the program for a season because they're an independent and they couldn't get a schedule together. So they ended up not playing football in 2020 for a full season. And anybody that wanted to transfer was allowed to transfer for free. And so they lost basically their whole team. Before 2020, their last 3 seasons were 3-9, 3-9, 1-11, and 2-10. They don't play in 2020. They come back last year, 2021. They go 1-11, and their only win was against an FCS school.
Yikes.
This season, Jim Mora Jr. gets hired, his first season. They're 6-5.
Not bad.
Really impressive. Really impressive.
I agree.
Especially for year 1 of a coach.
Yeah, because they're in. What are they in again?
They're independent.
Oh, okay.
They went independent so that the basketball team could go back to playing in the Big East.
I got you. That makes sense then. Dang. No, that is impressive. That's good for them. Go Husks.
Yeah. So happy for them. Happy for Jim Mora Jr.
Yeah.